Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Up Zone, where understanding politics is made simple, or at least as simple as we can make it. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for the 43rd District of the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the city of Fayetteville, and both concerned residents who continue to live, work, and recreate in the city of Fayetteville at this point. Mr. Floyd, how are you today?
So far, so good. So good so far. Yesterday was a beautiful day because it rained, and I guess my creditors had some problem with their fiber optical lines. They couldn't reach me.
Mr. Floyd, did you go to bed before the weather got bad, or were you privy to hearing the rain and the wind?
Yes, yes, that's why I'm saying my creditor may have some problem with the optical lines. They couldn't reach me.
I don't think your phone rings too frequently from a creditor. But I tell you, Floyd, that's some good sleep. That hard rain, I prayed that the wind wouldn't get too strong and start blowing people's windows and houses and property over. And I went on to sleep, and that was some good sleep.
Well, I always look after the rain at my truck, and I can tell how hard it rained because the water was 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 staying there until I put out, and then it moved, and it's pretty full this morning.
Right, right. Yeah, it was a lot of water. And in the middle of the night, the alarms, the public alarms went off to let us know that
Yeah.
there was a chance of flooding. I don't know if our viewers know, but a state of emergency was issued for the city of Fayetteville. And Mr. Floyd, can you explain to people why a state of emergency would be issued before an emergency actually transpires?
Preparation.
Preparation. It gives the ability, that is what authorizes the mayor to be able to make rules during an emergency event. If there's no state of emergency declared, then the mayor does not have the authority to be able to be reactive to things as they come up during the course of an event. So that is a preemptive move, and it is exactly for preparation.
And
Have you
too,
heard of any? Go ahead.
then too, if you look at it, the president have already announced that North Carolina is the state of emergency. So that gives the state an opportunity to recoup whatever financial part that they need.
Funding,
Yeah,
it's tied to money.
yeah, it's tied to money. So if they can
Absolutely.
recover for that, that means the process doesn't slow down in the recovery. That's it.
Absolutely. So government does try in some regards to be proactive. So we can't say that everything is just all bad where government is concerned. Mr. Floyd, do you have any announcements, or have you heard of any damage across our community as a result of
No,
these storms?
not yet, but Coach McDougal's funeral is going, homegoing service is going to be this coming Saturday at 1 o'clock
Okay.
at Conference B headquarters. And for those that are not familiar, it's right across the Hope County line going to Rayford. And so it's at 1 o'clock there, and I think he had 16 CIAA golfing tournaments. And I think I spoke at one opportunity to speak at one of the events that they were celebrating.
Hmm.
Recognizing him.
Yeah. And it's always nice to remember people's legacy and their accomplishments. And most certainly, it is good if you know the family and you have a relationship with those who are left behind to go and show your support. So, absolutely, you know how they say at church, govern yourselves accordingly.
Yes.
Absolutely. And we will be on the lookout for any updates in terms of any outages or damage. Mr. Floyd, I didn't put this on our list of things to discuss, but I just want to mention it very quickly. I saw an article that said that our utility rates may be going down. Did you have a chance to see that article?
Well, I saw that article and read it, but I believe it when I see it. And let me explain this to you. I
Okay.
believe it when I see it, and I know that it would take place. But also, I've expected to see within a reasonable period of time increase to take it back.
Well, let me say this. I do agree with you that I do expect to see it. I've always been impressed with the fact that our public utility passes along their savings to their end user. Because I've always thought that if you can pass along your expenses to me, most certainly when your expenses are a little bit lower, you should be able to cut me some slack. So I
Well,
do
they do
know,
that. I
yeah,
mean, I mean, they do that, but there's a lot of hidden costs because you know that within X meaning that they are going to have to look at some type of filter system
right.
to get the forever chemicals out of the system. So that's why I say to you, yes, it would happen, but so does the hand that's give it, so
Take
that
it.
the hand would take it away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mr. Floyd, today we're going to be talking about some stuff at the city in terms of these ethic complaints that have been brought forward. We're going to talk a little bit about development projects, talk about the work session where a council member brought forward a request to review some body cam footage. We're also going to get into how Cumberland County officials will just really high level touch on how they've spent their COVID relief funds and the delay of the public hearing regarding Methodist University Medical School. And then we're going to wrap up by talking about how our state Democrat leaders feel about Vice President Harris's running mate um, selection. So let's jump right in, Mr. Floyd. You know, I received a phone call from a journalist in our community asking about the ethics complaints and why over a period of time, seemingly the last 5 cases that have come before the ethics committee have been dropped or dismissed. And this call came as a result of them finding out that the ethics complaint against DJ Haire, Councilman DJ Haire, where he was alleged to have um, been using his seat to leverage the sale of a property and trying to manipulate um, the demolition process based upon his position, it has been dropped or dismissed. And Mr. Floyd, I'm not surprised, but I'll say that I just always feel like that a person should not think that just because an ethics complaint has been dropped or dismissed, that there is not something amiss in this
Well, the
situation.
gentleman, come on, T. DJ said to all of us that he did not know the gentleman, although he made some communication to
That
the
was documented.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he just had a collapse of memory,
Well, I
and
was gonna say maybe once you get to a particular age, you're able to say you don't remember, and everybody just goes with it, Mr. Floyd. But I don't know that that's necessarily the case with people who are still in these positions. And you and I, we talk about this all the time. That there's this ageism that transpires in the community where elected officials are concerned in some regards, but then in other regards, there's a the you know what I'm trying to say, Floyd.
I mean, when you look at it, the first thing that once the conversation, my understanding from it was that once the conversation got to a certain point, the council member mentioned to that person who he can have access to,
Right.
and so I'll just make that statement, you know.
Absolutely. And I have always asserted that the only way that a person should expect for an investigation to yield fruitful results is if it is an external investigation with a body that has subpoena authority. And I've said that dozens and dozens of times because I myself was asked by the city of Fayetteville, by the governing board, to file an ethics complaint about my allegations. And I laughed at that. I said, why on earth would I do that? That just doesn't even make sense. An ethics, because this ethics board will dismiss these allegations and have y'all out here having plausible deniability, when in all actuality, if a body has subpoena authority, they're going to substantiate what has been said.
But when you say ethnic board, well, so now our listening audience can
Mhm.
understand what ethnic board are you talking about?
Well,
You're
the
talking
ethics committee is a group of members of the community that are appointed by the Fayetteville City Council to look into matters of ethical violations that are brought before them. And so there's typically an attorney on that board. There are some other positions that are required to be on that board, and then this group of people come together and review the information. Is much like Mr. Floyd saying that you're going to put a very important matter into the hands of a couple qualified people and some other people you just picked to be on this board. And in all actuality, and this is not to demean or devalue those members on the ethics committee, but they do exactly what they are appointed to do because they are given a scope within which they can work, and that scope is very narrow. And when you have a very narrow window within which to work, is not a whole lot you can see.
Well,
So
that I mean, but you haven't said that a reason-minded person will look at the information that is provided and make a reasonable-minded decision.
well, and see, here's the thing, Mr. Floyd, when it comes to matters of the law, and you know this as I know this, that sometimes what seems very reasonable still is not necessarily a matter of law. So I want to see. I think I should be able to show you. Um, I thought this was very interesting. Let me see if I can get into it. But so like we can look at something and go, well, this just makes perfect sense. But the law sometimes doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That's why I teach you you look at the reasonable-minded theory and then the reasonable-minded ideology. If there's evidence or information presented, you look at that as a reasonable-minded person to determine a reasonable-minded decision. Like in this case, uh,
So are you talking about us in the community? We need to look at this reasonable minded because
no,
the
no, no. I'm talking about the governor board that uh, that review these information. They, you know, they are they are there to look at the facts that they are presented and make a reasonable mind. Now the
but
question
but
ever
that's
needs
but that's not the
facts
case
to be
though.
read.
And I think that's the point I'm trying to make. That's not necessarily the case. Because with the ethics committee, and that's why, and I'm glad you asked me to talk about this ethics committee. With the ethics committee, there's a guideline that dictates what they can do, and it's not review this and make a reasonable determination. I'm trying to find it for you, Floyd, but it's
I
not.
mean, I understand what you're saying, but that board has a responsibility to make a reasonable mind decision based upon the information that is presented and also the guidelines in which they are there. I mean, you it's just like a accounting person that does your taxes. They say that this is not a legal document. This is the information that has been provided to me, and then from this information, I prepared this report.
Right. So
Okay.
let's I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for saying all that because that takes us right back to our standard of being teachers. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
This is the City of Fayetteville's website. The City of Fayetteville's website has on their boards and commissions. This is particularly the information about the Ethics Commission. So as you can see, the Ethics Commission let me I'm having a hard time getting in. Okay, here we go. The ethics commission is a council appointed commission whose purpose is to investigate complaints, render advisory opinions, hear complaints, and publish findings and recommendations regarding alleged violations of the city's ethic policy by city employees, board and commission members, and city council members. So this means that this commission investigates complaints, and renders an advisory opinion.
Yes.
So they don't have any authority to do anything.
No. But that advisory opinion to those reasonable-minded person who would be in a advisory capacity that would assist the council or board or whoever with future action that may occur as it relates to this case.
Absolutely. So on this board, they have to have one licensed attorney, they have to have one certified public accountant, and then three members selected by the city council from the general citizenry. So they don't have to have um any particular uh
My background,
qualifications.
that's
Right,
understandable,
right.
but that's why you go with the reasonable minded person And then, like on this committee you just mentioned, you do have an attorney, which would assist those three persons to be more reasonable minded,
Should
and
do
then
that.
have an accountant.
Should do that.
Yeah,
Yes, that is
yeah.
correct. So
And then,
when we look at this though, Mr. Floyd, is very, very nuanced about what they can look at. So let me give you an example. When we say reasonable minded, there's a clause in what they can do that says if anything is over a year old, we can't even we can't even look at it.
well, I mean, that's just like in anything, just like me being an EEOC person, they said that ours was 180 days after the alleged action has occurred, or 240 days if
Correct.
it's with a federal, with an agency, meaning the federal government. So there's timetables there that you have in place, so you don't burden that particular organization
Correct.
with past due. But now, if that is already in effect and moving forward, that agency still has the authority to if it starts, doesn't mean that it has to end within the 180 days, but it must be filed. You know, so I mean, I can
And the
understand it.
right. And the
Still go
hearing
back to the reasonable minded person, and that's
Right,
what.
and the hearing need not be conducted according to technical rules of evidence, and any relevant evidence, including hearsay, probative value, shall be admitted at the discretion of the chair. Incompetent, immaterial, or unduly repetitious evidence may be excluded. An electronic stenographer. So these are the rules that govern that. There's another, I'm trying to find it, but I don't know where it's at. There's
Mhm.
another outlay that gives, and I'm gonna find it and we'll come back to this another day. But there's another outlet, Mr. Floyd, that really does hinder the effectiveness of this particular commission.
Well, I mean, many of them are not. You know, it's just like any other thing. If you talk about a civil services, review board, the first thing that the organization on the other end would say is that that person has no statutory authority to review the records of a law enforcement officer. Their personnel record. And
Right.
I don't know of what person being investigated is going to allow you
It's gonna
to
just arbitrarily give you their
yeah.
information.
I mean, if it is, just before your time, we had a facility in Goldsboro that we called Dorothy Dix. That's where the people go that have some mental capacity. So I'm not
Right.
going to give you my personnel record to you.
Right.
So I mean,
Here it is. I found it, Mr. Floyd. I was gonna look
mm,
high and low to find this. I found it. Hang on, I'm gonna share it again because I just want to make sure that our audience understands how nuanced this is, so that when you see somebody essentially like an ethics complaint dismissed, you understand that that doesn't mean that nothing happened. So when you see this, let me know, Mr. Floyd.
mm-hmm,
So this is the code of ethics. Advisory opinion, which is what we said that that commission is able to render, just means that an opinion is issued by the commission regarding whether the past, present, or proposed conduct by an elected or appointed official or employee of the city violates or would violate the provisions of section 2-94. It talks about what an appointed official is, what a business transaction is, and what the complaint is. It goes on then to spell out how this is all handled. So the inquiry, it talks about the ethics commission's purview, where it is contained in the city code. I'm showing y'all this so that you can go and look at it for yourself. Now, I want you to also take note in this because I think this will be important moving forward if you want to hear about how this all played out and why you may or may not be hearing anything about these results. A public body means the city council or agency, board, body, commission, committee, department, office of the city. A public official, Mr. Floyd, is not held to the same rule as an employee when it comes to personnel matters. An employee of the city has, so as an example, when Chief Hawkins had an ethics complaint issued against her as an employee of the city, they were not permitted to discuss what happened in that ethics commission meeting because that is covered under personnel
yeah.
policy privacy. That's not the case for a city council member. Am I correct, Mr. Floyd? So
That,
we should be able to hear about this moving forward. And if we don't, that should raise some questions.
but you know, I determine at what point in time, uh, things appear on the agenda.
I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. And I think
I,
if you look at section 2.93, that clearly outlays the issue as it concerns the complaint that was brought before the board against Councilman Haire. I'm not going to beat this over the head because I think that it's very easy for people to find this. If you would like a copy of it, I'd be happy to send it to you. You can just reach out to me. But most certainly, Mr. Floyd, I think the point that I'm trying to make in all of this is so nuanced that this commission will likely never find the people that appoint them guilty of something
well, again,
or render an advisory opinion that's something that an ethic has been violated. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I don't mean any harm, and don't take this person that you
Go ahead,
very
sir.
because of your background and how you make decisions. I wouldn't put you on
Absolutely, you would not.
the board. So I
As a
leave it
council
at that.
member, you would never, because you would know that I would be looking at you with a critical eye and that I would not care about you removing me from your committee.
That's the point, kid.
Right.
That, that is the point.
Mr.
Okay,
Floyd, is there any prestige that comes from a person being able to say, I'm on these various committees?
it's good for resume
It
purposes.
is very good for a resume's purpose. And it looks kind of bad if it says that you've been removed from this board for whatever reason. But Mr. Floyd, that being said, we see that that ethics complaint was dropped and it is what it is, and we'll
But
see what happens moving forward.
but but what we can do is provide the person the information also with the person who indicated that there was a conversation between the two, so
Right.
that they can make their own opinion as it really and weigh in on it.
Right. And we're not stupid. And most of us understand that law is nuanced. And again, I'm going to use that word, law is nuanced, and that something not rendering the type of an opinion that we think based upon reasonable information it should does not mean that we're crazy and it didn't happen. So I'm going to sit that right there and leave that on the table and let that be what it is. And y'all think about it however you want to think about it because it is what it is. Now, Mr. Floyd, whose responsibility is it to manage the development projects in the city of Fayetteville? Whose job is that?
I would like to know myself. I really, I'm just one person, and I know that there's others that continue to hear about projects that are looked at by the city with taxpayer dollars.
Because Mr.
From
Floyd, I'm so confused right now. If you come down Rose Hill Road, they've been putting in this roundabout for a long time. Now, I remember when I was over there on because I'm on the board and I have to drive past I think it's Whitfield. I have to drive down Whitfield occasionally. That roundabout on Whitfield went up like that. This roundabout over here on Rose Hill Road is taking 85,000 years. Our sidewalks still aren't installed on Rose Hill Road. We still got a tennis complex that's not completed. Who is the person that's the project manager for these projects?
well, only thing I know is that once it leaves the council hand, it goes to the manager, and from the manager, it goes down to a particular, I hope, a person or which department, because government
So
is broke.
ultimately, though, this would fall on because see, it's not the council's responsibility to manage the day-to-day operations of the city. That's the city manager's responsibility. The council provides direction, the city manager manages the day-to-day operations. So does this fall on the city manager when we see these incomplete projects all around the fire station? When we see all that, does that fall on him?
It falls up under him, but like the city manager has like 1,800 employees.
Yeah,
Okay,
but if your people not doing what they supposed to be doing, that still falls on you.
it falls on him, but it also falls on the person that is looking at the construction part of it. But what has been said is that we pay based upon performance. Okay, so if my goal on a project is
Just
to
to make a few
20%,
dollars.
yeah, then I reach a certain point, I walk away.
Yeah.
Okay. But that person that's overseeing the project have before him, like many, and you seen them, they have a calendar that on the 125th day you supposed to get
Right.
here. Okay. And that
Right.
person, before he or she issue that uh, payment, will look and see if the project meets the code,
Right.
meets the standard. Okay. But for you to tell me that I pay upon performance, my performance is to make some dollars.
That's look for some of these. Apparently, for these companies they're hiring, it's about making the money. I tell my husband runs a business, and people call us, and I tell them all the time, ma'am, sir, because they call and they say, like, if they have a property management company that manages a property that they're in, but they're calling us because they want their stuff fixed. And I'm trying to explain to them, we have to make sure that we get approval before we can move forward. But this is what I tell them all the time, ma'am or sir, we don't get paid until we finish this work. We
Mhm.
have a vested interest in completing your job. So
Yeah.
you can better believe that if we've not been back out there, it's only because we've not received approval yet, because we don't get paid until we finish the work.
Well, see, when you look at it, and if you look at the tennis court, and if you look at the sidewalk, see,
They made
sometimes
their money and went on about their business.
see, you was on the council at that time. I'm not picking at you because I like
I
you.
was not, though.
Yeah, but when you was on the council when you all said, let's look at using local business as much as possible.
And I never was on that bandwagon because I always felt like we need the people who can do the job no matter where they live or where they're from. I understand you want to build capacity in your community, but your community needs to learn how to partner with people who are already doing this. That's how I felt.
Well,
We cannot sacrifice quality for the sake of building capacity.
let me say this to you, Chief. I had the opportunity to, and I tried, as chairman of a particular board. And my question was to that board before we enter into that agreement: does that person have the bonding capacity to be, or I'm gonna use
Well,
a
Floyd, we
maybe
got
a
people out here bonding themselves, so they got whatever capacity they want to have. Because allegedly, the people who were responsible for the tennis complex bonded themselves. So if I'm a bond myself, I'm a bond myself at whatever level you tell me I need to be bonded at.
well, see, that's what goes back doing research. Okay, so my question was to my board: does that person has the capacity, just like what you mentioned, that
Right,
bond? But the person did have a bonding company, but the person has never built a project of this magnitude.
right.
But we wanted to do this based upon the good old buddy system.
So the
Okay.
question becomes, Mr. Floyd, if the councils, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. So if the council, because we had all these people in the community who were saying y'all are doing too much of this pro black, pro local, too much of this, and it's not gonna work. We had people who were saying that we need for you to pick the highest and best. So now does this lend itself as evidence that your desire to hire black and hire local is not working the way you think it should? You
Well,
need to go back and review this.
you need to go when you're dealing with public dollars. I mean, I understand set aside. I understand 10%, whatever you want to do, but you're talking about taxpayer dollar. And when you're talking about 43% of the population are minorities, we don't have that kind of money to keep giving away.
We sure
You
don't.
might have it now, I mean, but I don't have it for you to tell me that a building may have to be torn down and rebuilt.
Right.
I mean, so we got to start looking at people that we elect and that send these, that do these approval, you know, to really look thoroughly at the bond. I mean, at the person
Well,
that.
but the people that are elected, Mr. Floyd, don't even have most of these people don't have the skill set to review these documents in detail because they've not been educated on that process. They really, you got to remember, and you know this like I know this, elected officials get elected by gaining the popular vote. They don't get elected because they have a resume that says, I know how to do this, I know how to do this, I know how to do this. So you get
How well
people
I know
who,
that, Tish. How
right,
well.
because we have freshman council members who are babies still. They're young, they've not even built their own home yet. So they have no frame of reference for what it means to understand a development project of this scale. So when you think about that, Mr. Floyd, that's where you look to your staff to be wise. You see this little blurb right here? I know you see it right here where it says the board unanimously approved hiring Barr and Barr McFarland as the construction manager at risk for the Homeless Support Center. Director of Engineering and Infrastructure Jermaine Walker said the center is scheduled to be completed by the end of 2026. I highlight this because the county commissioners, this is wisdom. When you are building or developing or have projects on the table, your city manager is busy. He's managing the city. Your employees don't really always have the know-how to do these projects, to project manage these projects. Hire somebody.
Mhm.
Hire somebody. You've got your construction firm. Hire a project management company that is the intermediary between the city manager's office and the construction firm.
And he is the one that determines when pay.
Is released. And there's a metric that he should follow that says at this point it will be released. And he should be, but then he's the fall guy if this project is undone because your sole job was to manage this
The project.
job. That was your
That means
sole job.
it had to be there on a daily basis.
On a daily basis. Because I'm telling you, this stuff, it's a porta potty at the front entrance of my neighborhood. It was tractors and excavators sitting up there. It's a whole bunch of stuff up there and never any people.
Teach, I mean, what they're doing for your neighborhood. I know you talked with me about this once before, Teach. But your neighborhood where you live at, the road is two lane.
Well,
The
then
cars
get it
can drive up
done.
traffic.
Get it
It's so
done.
not what I'm saying though, but the council person in your district have not approached the Fayetteville Metropolitan Planning Organization to make improvement on on Rose Hill Road as a high priority. A roundabout, you still gonna have the same amount of traffic that's going into this circle to come out of that circle. Now you got a
Mr.
person
Floyd,
80 years
let
old.
me tell you something. Let me tell you a secret, Mr. Floyd. My council member is too busy trying to review body cam footage of a canine incident that has already been debated, discussed, and closed. Okay. So my
Mhm.
council member is more interested in making sure that a dog wasn't wronged than in making sure that my neighborhood doesn't sit with unfinished projects. And I'm this person, and I need for everybody to know this because I need for you to know exactly who I am so that if you judge me fairly. All of the people who think that dogs' lives and cats' lives and rabbits' lives matter more than humans' lives, I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people. So when the Fayetteville Police Department issued a statement and said that what we saw happen with this dog was as a result of this dog biting its handler and the handler trying to back that dog off of him, I was just fine with that explanation. Because if a dog were attacking me, I'm not going to be concerned about the optics of how you feel about how I get that dog up off of me. So, with that being said, Mr. Floyd, this is what my council member is pushing for. My council member wants to have body cam footage released so that he can vilify the police yet again instead of making sure that the projects in my community are completed. Because I've not seen anything in the newspaper about my council member saying anything about these unfinished projects and how they need to be handled in our
But teach,
community.
but teach, it goes back to the point. The residents are more. One thing about my community that I like, I love it, Teach. They don't care about nothing if they like you. They'll put you in office.
Well, I don't know if he's gonna have a unless no if now if the same thing happens that happened last time. where a ghost candidate ran against him. And by ghost candidate, I mean they put their name on the ballot and then they disappeared. Okay. If
Mhm.
that happens again, maybe he may be reelected. But I'm most certain it's,
See,
there's
see, our community, I'm just saying to you again, we don't care.
I don't
We
think
just
we're
want to
crazy
know
about him, no.
that if I like
I don't
you,
think we like him, Floyd.
like
I don't
you.
think we like him. I think we're stuck with him. I think we're stuck with him.
Again, apparently you like the person because you keep electing the person. And I say to you
When you
every
don't have
time,
nobody run against you, what are the choices?
what I say to you, they need to find somebody. But what I say to you is that the first thing that Floyd look at going forward as I'm on this earth, I'm looking at Amazon.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. Are you Amazon now? So you can know now. Amazon don't deliver a package that you order today and deliver it Christmas.
Yeah. Can I
They don't.
tell you also? Let me tell you also. Let me say this. I think it's so disheartening, Mr. Floyd. And I want to focus on this particular line where it says, I think that should lend any credence to anyone who has concerns that if indeed there were no problems and indeed the entire set of facts that were described in writing were also going to be showed in the video, then any sort of issues will be addressed by releasing the video. Here's my concern with this. I have a 5-page letter with allegations that have been backed and founded by investigative reporting from City View Today. And I've never seen my councilman say that an investigation into those allegations should lend credence to anyone that has concerns that if indeed it were no problems and the entire set of facts described in writing were irrelevant, this should put people's mind at rest. He's never said that. Mr. Haire had an ethics violation against him. I have not seen him yet come out and say, we need to release the findings of this ethics investigation so that it can lend any credence to anyone who has concerns that if indeed there were no problems.
You
Floyd, be
gonna do that?
consistent.
Do you
Huh?
think he can do that?
Absolutely not. You
Okay.
know why? Because he's more concerned about these he's more concerned about minute issues that don't really move the needle where transparency and good governance are concerned than he is about really enforcing practical application of policy to ensure good government and to demonstrate a commitment to transparency for this community. So I will say that this is dumb to me. This is dumb to me. And
Uh,
not because I think that a person should be able to arbitrarily beat on a dog, because I don't believe that. But
see,
I do believe I believe the report that was put out.
what
I believe that.
what about other issues where that a community have asked for body cam?
And has not been able to get it where their loved one is concerned, where the death or the disfigurement of a loved one is concerned. Mr. Floyd, this is dumb to me. And it's one of those instances where I'm sitting and I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, these are exactly what you just said. These are the people that we elect.
Well,
These are the people we elect. And I'm going to tell you, I appreciate the three who said, no, thank you. Lynn Green, Thompson, Derek Thompson, and Mayor Pro Tem Kathy Jensen. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I mean, that's what you know because you know what got me about this. I know we're gonna move on.
Go ahead, take your
In the
time.
conversation, the person indicated that I didn't know the person, but I had communication with the person.
Right,
But
right.
but you need to talk with my attorney.
Attorney.
Attorney is the one that is going to come before my body to zone 3 lots, I believe it is.
My attorney is the person who represented the mayor in the issue with this land over in Cedar Creek. My attorney is the city's bond counsel. My attorney was referenced in the allegation letter by city councilwoman Tisha Wardell when she resigned. My attorney is the middleman for a whole bunch of crap. My attorney has been referenced in a letter regarding DHHS and some improper payments. My attorney is implicated in all kind of mess.
So I'm just saying to you, you you know, you have to look at this, and then just maybe one day there's hope for our community that they will open their eyes and look at the process.
Yeah,
It's,
Mr. Floyd, I'm gonna tell you something though. If I didn't believe in Jesus Christ, I would idolize a man like Jonathan Charleston
well, I do.
because he embodies everything carnal when it comes to the pursuit of power, the pursuit of control. And Mr. Floyd, when I tell you, and this is why I tell people all the time, y'all better be glad I'm saved and I'm honest about who I am. If I were not a believer, if I did not believe that there was a genuine consequence for that type of behavior that resulted in eternity in hell, Mr. Floyd, I'm telling you, I would be that kind of woman. I would be the woman that would seek to control the playing field and have the power and stack the deck in my favor and enjoy the pursuit of power and
Well,
passion on this earth.
well, I think that you have to look at it. How do you build it?
How do you do what?
How do you build
On
that?
the backs of other people. But when you don't care about, listen, when that's not, I'm telling you, I think people think for some reason that and I'll say this, I'm not a people person. I'm a project person. I love projects. I love a project. I love people, but I tire easily of people, which is why I'm telling you, I could be that kind of person if I did not think there was a consequence. Because
Well,
who cares whose back you step on if you don't feel like you need them? That's his mentality. If these people in the Fayetteville City Council, if the Mitch Colvins, if the DJ Haires, if the all of these other people who he has used to get what he wants, if they think for 1 second he give a flip flop about them and would not throw them under the bus in a
he
New
does.
York minute,
He
they
does.
are crazy.
He does. He does. I believe that there's a sense of care on his
No,
end.
there's a sense of manipulation. He is a master manipulator. I'm telling you, Floyd, my hat is off to this man. My hat
I
is off to this man. And
I
I
believe
know that as much as he feigns to hate me, I know that to hear me say this makes his toes tingle because this is ultimately what he craves from everybody is this adoration. And I'm telling you, he is for a person who's not a believer, this man right here, he is your Lord, y'all.
well, I believe that he care because at the ethnic hearing, I do believe that he showed up. I do believe that
Oh, he's Olivia Pope. He is Olivia Pope. He is the fixer
he showed up for that
for
person.
DJ. Yeah, absolutely. He
He
did
showed up.
exactly what DJ hired him to do.
So that's what
He
I'm
did
saying. I do
exactly.
believe that he cared. He cared, you know, about people.
If you think Floyd, I love that you just said that. You so smooth. You are so smooth. Because I'm gonna tell the people now, if you think that that man represented DJ Haire for nothing, and I'm not saying that he got paid, but if you think he represented him for nothing, you as crazy as they are.
Yeah,
Because he
I,
gonna get
I
something in
think
return. He is gonna get something in return.
I look at I look at to see what you just said. I look at future votes as they come before the council.
That's a great caveat. That's a great segue. So Floyd, and that's what we ought to do. We ought to keep watching the votes. Let's see when DJ votes against something that Jonathan brings before the council. So
Now,
now
my
speaking
first
of
look be Faye Block Company. Okay, my first look.
Faye Block,
Okay, and it's
Faye
coming
Block,
up soon now.
and Faye Block, while it's not in his district, it touches his district.
What doesn't make a difference whether it touches in his district or not, whether it's a yay or nay vote,
Yeah, let's see how it
which
goes.
will make up the majority.
Let's see how it goes. Cumberland County officials have spent $65 million in federal COVID-19 relief funds. While we're not going to give a detailed account for how they did that, that does account for about 80, almost 85% of their ARPA funds. Mr. Floyd, have you been watching how they're handling this money and what are your thoughts about
I
this?
mean, given the window, and there's too many projects to break down. Given
Right.
the window, and given the the information that they receive for how the funds to be invested within a 2 year period of time, you know, I think that the county did good to do 85% with the rules coming in after the funding was in place. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't spend, you can't, a wise person now is not going to spend the funding if I don't have guidelines.
Right.
I go to
And
jail or
here's as
repay,
a go ahead, sir.
and I don't want to repay the money for, for not spending as the way that you didn't tell me. that I thought that I should spend it.
Right. So 49% of it was spent in the public sector capacity. 21% was spent on infrastructure. 20% on on revenue replacement. 8% on negative economic impact. And this little teeny teeny sliver was on public health. This little itty bitty sliver. Mr. Floyd, what does this mean? Negative economic impact. What does that mean?
Well, whether it has an economic impact, that's what basically what it says.
But it's a negative economic impact. I want to know what that means. So
That's what
I
I'm
guess
saying.
we'll have to hold on. So here's the types of nonprofits that received Cumberland County's ARPA funds: social services, children's services, health, arts and culture. Arts and culture got 10%. Disability services only got 8%. And then 6% for other.
Well,
Emergency services got 10%. So that was the breakdown. Types of businesses: food got 24%. In Cumberland County, we like to eat. 20% went to retail. So when you look at your community and you wonder why the businesses are food heavy and retail heavy, this is why. This is where our investment goes. 16% to hair salons. We want to eat well, shop well, and look good. 16% on health, 8% on lodging, 8% on contact tract work, and 8% on other. Mr. Floyd, final thoughts on that particular topic.
so far so good, so good so far. They got about another to December the 31st to
To
disperse the
spend at 15%. I'm not
yeah.
mad at it. I'm not mad at it. Mr.
Somebody
Floyd, um, let's talk a little bit about the county commissioner's delay of the public hearing on this $40 million in bonds for the proposed Methodist University Medical School. Now, this is a nuance, right?
yeah.
Can you explain to our viewers the nuance in this? Because this is one of those things that's kind of confusing if you don't know what's going on.
Well, go back to the Titan plan. I think it was $130 million that the county approved that they could borrow. It's no different between what the college is requesting of the county is that it does not obligate the taxpayer in it. It just allows the governing body of that community. They have to get approval from that governing
Right.
body.
It's really
Before
just a process. It's
uh,
just a process. It's
that's all.
not saying that Methodist University is asking Cumberland County for $40 million. It's just saying that Methodist University does not have the ability to bond this money without a governing body approving it.
That's all it is. That's all that it
Right.
is that they are going to pay. They are going to pay the debt. And given what they are trying to do, it is needed here in Cumberland County. But
Absolutely.
the concern comes about is that you know the chairman indicated uh, that there was no information, but it had to be somewhere recorded that it does not hold the taxpayer any responsibility. What I'm simply saying, there should be documentation
Right.
expressing that so in
Right.
that
Because the first
sometimes
time something like this came before the council, I was thoroughly off put. I was like, wait a minute, why do we need to do this? And they had to explain the process to me because it just shows up before you. It just it just
yeah,
pops up on your agenda.
it's just a good gesture to stimulate economic development. And then
Right.
again, it's another job creation project. That's what the
Absolutely.
bottom line is.
Not only that, Mr. Floyd, but if you think about it, remember we read that article that indicated that North Carolina is in no, not just in North Carolina, nationally, we are deemed here in Fayetteville as one of the unhealthiest cities. And one of the reasons for that was because of our healthcare system. We lack the volume of healthcare providers that are needed to support our community. Many of our citizens have to travel to Cary or to Durham for their care.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, to Cary or Duke for their care. So because of, you know what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
because of that, Mr. Floyd, to have a medical school in our community would in essence create a pipeline because we already have the training facility at the hospital. So the
Hmm.
hospital has engaged more physicians by creating this training program, which kudos to them. Then to have a medical school in our community where after you leave your undergrad and you complete your graduate and you want to go into medical school, you can do so and then go directly from there into our training program at our hospital. We may be more likely to actually retain some of these physicians. So it will
That's,
take
that's the
time.
goal. That's the goal. That that's the goal of of this program. And then again, we there's another footprint too that Cape Fear is intending to continue to expand its footprint in the community. I just hope and wish that Cape Fear would look at. I forgot the insurance company that they are having a conversation with, and many of those person had to bypass Cape Fear and go to First South because Cape Fear and this insurance company has
Are at
got
odds with each other.
yeah.
Yeah, we
So
need Cape Fear. We need y'all to get that together.
people
Take
don't
this
have to go.
insurance.
People don't have to go outside, but I think it's a good. I think it's a good investment. Also for Fayetteville State that has one of the top nursing programs in
Yeah.
the state.
Yeah.
We
So
got
let's
95+% passing rate.
so Mr. Floyd, if you were a county commissioner, is this something that you would be like, okay, let's get this done? I mean, I know you said I agree with Chairman Adams in that if you have not gotten any information, you should have information before this
Because
goes for a public
it is
hearing.
correct. Because I mean, after you receive it, I mean, after you discuss it, normally there's a vote.
Absolutely. And this
And
is not one of those things where you table it and come back and vote later. Like usually it's you have the public hearing, nobody shows up to speak. You hear a little information presented by your staff and then you vote.
yes.
Yeah.
So I think that it's always best to protect yourself by making sure that you have those documents there now, because you got to read the document now, because it might be a document in reverse, which
Right.
obligates you
Right.
to
And
pay.
you need to make sure you're not obligated.
That's what you're looking at.
Read your
So,
cam to make sure you are not on the hook. So,
uh,
Mr. Floyd, we have seen on the national stage that Vice President Kamala Harris has selected her vice presidential running mate. So she has selected Tim Walz of Minnesota, who some are saying is a very interesting character, and others are hailing as the best thing since sliced bread. I don't know yet. I'm still doing my research, but our Democrat leaders have weighed in on Walz as Harris's vice presidential running mate. As to be expected, all of them have thumbs up the. Do y'all ever disagree publicly?
but this is expected, Chief. I mean, that. Let's be real. They had a virtual vote, okay, and that virtual vote gave her the 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 the, the nominee. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's gonna take place at their convention. And she had already made that she's gonna have her announcement made before Tuesday of this week. So
Hmm.
all this right here just are circles. Nothing negative, but
Yeah. And it's
you know,
not even worth really going through their responses because they all basically said all good. The only two people I think that did not respond, I don't think, well, they did not get in touch with Marvin Lucas. Was that the only one who didn't respond? Yeah, it was
that's
Marvin Lucas.
I mean, so it's just I just wish that our party would do the same thing at the state level.
Right.
Where we don't run candidates against an incumbent. That if we ask a candidate to run for office, that we help fund those candidates. That we don't pour our money behind one or two
One
candidates
person.
when you have swing districts in which you can possibly elect individuals. But I wish also that we'll change our message, because that is the key if we are intending to win North Carolina, which some say that's a purple state and carries 16, electoral votes.
Yeah.
But the vice president now, which is the Trump's president candidate, has been to Fayetteville since her. I mean, come no North Carolina about 12 times, but and also here in Fayetteville. But my home is Rocky Mount, which is the northeastern part of the state,
Hmm.
and that's where a lot of minority populations So she canceled her trip. I think it's the day that she was supposed to be in Raleigh. I hope when they reschedule it that they will shift it over that part of the state so that those persons can see that their vote and that they are being recognized, not just Raleigh, not just Charlotte, not just Greensboro, but you look at where the belt of the minority population lie, and you always talk about grass.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and grassroots means you got to get out there in the grass. I like what George Bree said because Mr. Floyd, during prep, you and I were talking, and you said that this was a smart choice for Harris in that the Democrats needed to solidify Minnesota for the electoral college votes. So this may help them to be able to do that. So this was the question I asked you. I said, I really thought that she was going to go with the candidate from Pennsylvania because I thought that that was more of a strategic move than and apparently Pennsylvania thought that too because they put out a whole video prematurely announcing him as her running mate. But she went with Minnesota. Does this harm her opportunity to secure Arizona, Pennsylvania? Does this make them feel slighted as Democrats in those areas, particularly since their people were so touted in this race, or is this just par for the course and everybody gets over it quickly?
Well, it's something, Teach, that that's a good question because
Oh,
many
you
people,
don't tell me that often. Thank you.
that's a good question. I mean, but many people say that they are going to support a candidate, knowing fair well that they're not. But it's the easiest thing to do to move forward. When you look at the governor of Pennsylvania, I think he had a 68%, a 60 plus percent approval rate in that state. And I think that state has 21 electoral college votes. And when you look at North Carolina, we have 16 electoral votes. But as a Democrat, you add those two together, it will help her move towards her 270. But we have not been successful down the ticket. And
Which is really the hurtful part for selecting a governor that has not garnered the votes down the ticket.
yeah, I mean, and so when they begin to look at the candidate, as you mentioned about Pennsylvania, in that area they was pumping the Pennsylvania governor. Down in our area, they was mentioned that our governor will be a possible running mate. But
Hmm.
teach, when they look at you and your name has been thrown out, you got a staff person over there, looking at what time you were born at the hospital.
Right,
Okay, and
right,
what room number you was in
right.
the
And who was in there with your mama? And
hospital.
yeah.
They have all of that. I mean, they go back. That's what they get paid for.
Yeah, they
And
dig deep.
when they look at our state, and I said this before, down the ticket, we have not been successful. So if I bring you on board and you got a 48% approval rate and a 31% disapproval rate and 22% don't even care,
Yeah.
it doesn't look good
You're
for us.
not a safe bet. So I
Yeah,
like what George Bree said. George Bree said that this race for president is not about who either vice president nominee is. This is a race between Harris versus Trump. Neither president candidate will move neither vice president candidate will move the needle that much. Both vice presidential candidates are nice window dressing, but folks don't vote for the vice president. They vote for the top of the ticket. This is a Harris versus Trump race. And Mr. Floyd, I heard something and I wanted I said, I got to tell Mr. Floyd this on the podcast on Thursday. I was watching a YouTube video, and I think it was also played on CNN, where there were a group of men in a barbershop who were interviewed, black men who were interviewed and asked about Kamala Harris as the presidential nominee. And it would seem, not just based upon this interview, but based upon other commentaries that I'm seeing that are garnering a lot of attention, that black men are not really that interested in Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate. One of the comments that I found extremely interesting as I've been kind of digging to see what is the pulse in the streets as far as these two candidates, is that somebody said that Kamala Harris's first, and I think you and I may have talked about this, but I'm going to bring it up to you again because I've heard it again. If it wasn't you and I, Kamala Harris's first call was a call to Black women. Her first mass act was a call to bring together Black women, which disenfranchised Black men and made Black men feel invalidated, inferior, and insignificant in this conversation. And one of the things that you and I have talked about often, not just in terms of race or gender, but we've talked about this in the construct of age also, that when you disqualify a group of people based upon not communicating with them because you've said they're too old, they don't matter, they're the wrong gender, they don't matter, you lose their support.
That's
So there's a theory that Kamala Harris has really damaged her support base in the Black community. What are your thoughts on that?
well, black males, as we tend function, and I heard this conversation too from many black males.
Hmm.
As we attend functions, whatever the function may be, if it's a banquet or activity or whatever, when a candidate, when a female candidate comes on stage and they say that I am the first black, the black male get offended. Why?
Yeah,
I mean, you are elected official. I mean, it's already printed on the program that you are who we know that you are.
yeah,
And many black males just, I was at a function just a couple of months ago when the males at that table they would just, they sort of moved uh, when it was said by someone that I'm
it
the
was a turn off
first.
for them.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we know that you are elected. Why not just run and go up under your title? But if you're gonna move a party together, bring the whole party together, not just certain segments, of the party, because the Democrats cannot win unless they have 90 plus percent of the African American vote, which include male and female. You know, you can't do it by saying all just females. That's a
Yeah. Yeah.
combination effort. Now, it was just like with Sherry Beasley. The first thing they said, they didn't say female when Sherry Beasley lost. You know what they said, Tish? Miss White?
What they
The
say?
black community
Failed
didn't
her.
turn out.
Yeah, they failed her. So
They said,
Floyd, basically you're saying that what these men in the barbershop said holds some weight.
I mean, I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time because I go to a lot of events, in support. And
Yeah,
many people say, "Why did you go? You're not running for office." Well, I just go to provide that organization some
your
support.
support.
You know,
I
it is not
appreciate that about you
personal.
because I don't go to anything. I'm like, I'm
It's not gonna
disinterested.
hurt me. It's just like the NAACP banquet. It's a
I'm busy.
$65 ticket, and
I'm
it's going to
busy.
be out of Fort Liberty.
I'm
You
busy.
know, and a lot of people, don't like Fort Liberty, but they go, and not Fort Liberty as a whole now, but I'm talking about having banquets because of the distance and getting on the post and
Right.
exiting the post. But
Right.
they go to support the NAACP.
I'm busy.
So I already bought my ticket. You know,
I think I have some unused worms.
well, I understand, but I mean, just like I think Vets Unlimited, they having a black and white ball. I think it's sometime the 19th of this month.
Yeah.
Well, the ticket is $50.
Yeah, I'm
I
busy.
go and support because they use the money to do
My
scholarship.
worms are I got a lot of worms. Mr.
Well,
Floyd, what you want to leave our people with before we get up out of here today?
please, please, we got less than 90 days, I believe, before the election. Look at the candidates, whether it's Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, Green Party, Brown Party, and see if that person can be my favorite word to you, teach Amazon
And deliver, right?
and deliver. If they can't deliver, please, you know,
Yeah, and Floyd, I guess for me, I put this on Facebook and I thought it was so profound. And it says, a vote is not a Valentine. You aren't professing your love for the candidate. It's a chess move for the world you want to live in. So I just want to tell people, stop thinking that who you decide to vote for means that you love this person, you endorse everything they say or do, that you just agree with them wholeheartedly, and they're a reflection of who you are because they are who you are. Who you vote for, you should be voting for them because A, they line up with you constitutionally. And when I say constitutionally, I don't mean Constitution of the United States. I mean they line up with who you are, the construction of who you are at your core. And two, because you believe that their policies are going to yield to the type of world that you want to live in. Floyd, I don't want to live in a world where the meaning of words changes every 15 minutes. I don't want to live in a world where people can decide on a Monday that they are not what they are and they want to be something else. And so now we all have to placate to that, or else we lose everything. I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to live in a world where my children are undereducated and my religious freedoms are violated because it goes against somebody else's perspective or point of view. I don't want to live in that world. So you got to decide what kind of world you want to live in. And you also need to remember, this is for believers, this ain't for everybody. But you also need to remember that everything you do will be judged one day. So when you stand before your Father in heaven, if He is who you profess as your Lord and Savior, when you stand before Him, you're going to have to give an account for why you did what you did. Sometimes that may mean doing nothing at all. And I know
well,
that that completely contradicts what people say about our blackness and about our experience. But let me tell you something. My ancestors didn't die so that I had to vote. They died so that I had the right to do so if I chose to.
well,
So you govern yourself accordingly. Yes, Floyd, go ahead.
as you exit, you know, I have an opportunity to ride down your street, you know, in which you get home.
Yes.
And I believe that you've been over there for quite a period of time.
Yes.
And there's zero improvement, but we're going to finish the sidewalk.
Are we going to finish the sidewalks?
And we got a new contract with that. But there's zero improvement. So when you go to the poll in November to vote, look at that project and
Yeah.
look at the street itself and see if the person that represents you, may it be state,
I've
county,
never voted. I've never voted for my city council person.
well,
That's seated now. I've never, and I don't ever intend to, and I don't ever feel like it's my obligation to tell people who I
but
voted
see,
for. But I'm glad to tell you who
that's
I
why
didn't
we're
vote
going to
for.
keep that track. That's why we're going to keep all that traffic on that street in which you exit out of your subdivision to go somewhere. We're gonna make sure that you're gonna have to wait at least 3 to 4 minutes before you can
I don't
turn
have to wait
in.
that long. I'm telling you, it's not that bad for me. But this mess up there, clean up this mess. Come get y'all stuff, City of Fayetteville. Tell your contractors come get their stuff. Bring it back when they're ready to work. But come pick up your crap.
No. We gonna leave it there to let you know that there's still hope, but
There's
it's
still
not
hope.
gonna be anytime. You know, it's not gonna be close.
Yeah. Final words, Floyd.
I mean, I just wish again that our community will begin to wake up and see the issues that they are facing and how they are being approached by the elected officials. Just
Yeah.
don't vote for a person because I like Waddell. If Waddell can't be on Amazon, my second
Don't
time
do
saying,
it.
don't vote for.
Don't do it. Yeah, and I just want to say that, we need to measure people according to a consistent standard. For me, that standard is the word of God. So as I look at people behavior and their character and their conduct and their content, I'm measuring that. And first I'm starting with me, but I'm measuring that against what the word says. I'm measuring myself and I'm measuring others against that. And if you're found to not measure up, I just can't fool with you. I'll pray for you, but I really can't fool with you unless you're trying. If you're trying, that's one thing. But if you've decided that you don't care and you'll step on the backs and the necks of other people to get to where you want to get to, I'm going to have to let you do that by yourself because I don't want that consequence that you got coming to you. So I just want everybody to choose you this day who you will serve. But just know that for me and my house, we going to serve the Lord. Lord, That's our show today. Listen, it's
God,
always great. It's always great. I will I ask that everybody like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend, and make sure that you catch us on I
next
guess on the next episode, right?
Thursday, and let Abby go around us.
That's it.